Today in your notebook, we are going to be on page 52, talking about the U.S. Supreme Court case Marbury v. Madison and Chief Justice John Marshall. Now, this is a very important topic, so it is important that you are listening and paying attention. There is always at least one question about this on your star, and I will tell you some key words to look for when seeing a question like this. Okay, so we have the Marbury versus Madison case. It's going to take place from about 1801 to 1803. When you see a little V between two names, that means that it is a court case. In this case, Marbury is versing or suing Madison. We have to talk about how we get there. So we have 4 or 5 key players here today. We have John Adams, that is the man with the letter. We have Marbury, which is the man that the letter should be going to, under John Adams. And then you will see over on the other side, we have Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. And then on the next slide, we will talk about our 5th person, which is Chief Justice John Marshall. Now, this starts all the way back when Adams was still president. Adams knew that his run as a president was not perceived that well. He had made a lot of mistakes, and that was something he really struggled with. He had the XYZ affair, where his delegates were bribed to accept French support. We have then his reaction, which was to not go to war with France. The Alien Act, which declared that he may remove any immigrant that he felt was dangerous to America. We have the Sedition Act, where you were not allowed to talk badly about your president because people were speaking pretty badly about him. And he is also going to enact something else called the Judiciary Act. And that is what kind of blossoms into this whole court case. So the Judiciary Act basically makes it where presidents are allowed to appoint judges. And now this is super important because at the end of the day, yes, your legislative branch makes the laws, your executive branch enforces the laws, but your judicial branch, your judges, declare if these laws are unconstitutional. And so if you are a Federalist and you know you did a really bad run, and the next president's going to be a different party, a Democratic Republican, it's best that you get some judges in there that would agree more with you and laws that you would want to put into place. And so that's exactly what the Judiciary Act does, is it allows a president to appoint judges that he picks. So Adams is going to pick 16 judges right before midnight, before his presidency ends, which is where they get the nickname Midnight Judges. Now, when that clock strikes midnight, Jefferson has become president. He is in power. And he knows that Adams has just tried to appoint 16 new judges that would rather agree with Adams than this new president, Jefferson. And so Jefferson tells his cabinet member, the person that's supposed to deliver these judge appoint cards, not to do it. So he ordered that James Madison, his Secretary of State, not to deliver these letters. Now, there was one man that is going to make a really big deal out of this, and that is Marbury. Marbury was super excited to become a judge. He was waiting. He knew it was coming. He wanted to be on the Supreme Court and have this situation where he could declare laws unconstitutional and kind of make laws that he wanted, right, as a Federalist. And he knew that he could kind of stunt Jefferson in this way. Now he's waiting by his doorstep. He's hoping to get his appointment letter, and it never comes. And he's waiting and he's waiting, and he's like, it should be here by now. And so he kind of goes up and he's like, hey, what happened? And he's actually going to get so mad that Marbury is going to verse or sue James Madison for not delivering this letter. It's going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and there's going to be one man that is going to be the Chief Justice. That will be John Marshall. Now, John Marshall is looking at everything, and he is saying, hey, the president did have this Judiciary Act John Adams put in place that he could appoint judges, but then he's kind of looking in the Constitution, which is his job, and he realizes that it is in fact not allowed to have this much power as a president. And so he declares the Judiciary Act unconstitutional, which also means Marbury is not owed this job. In fact, it was also unconstitutional to force Madison to deliver these papers because he was not a part of Adams' cabinet. And therefore, this will establish judicial review, which is where it is the right of the Supreme Court to declare an action of the Congress or president unconstitutional. It is a part of the checks and balances system. It is making sure that a president like Adams is not overforcing or continuing to exert power that maybe he should not have. And I told you there are some key words to be looking for. Those are the ones in maroon on the screen. If you see a question about Marbury versus Madison, I can guarantee you your answer choice will have these two words. Either it is deeming laws unconstitutional or it is creating judicial review, right? Chief Justice John Marshall allowed now for the rest of time that it is the right of Supreme Court to take a look at what the legislative or executive branch is doing and looking to see, are they being too powerful? Are they exerting power that is not given in the Constitution, meaning it would be unconstitutional? And so this is also a part of a bigger problem we are having inside of the US right now, right? At this time period, we're starting to have a lot of domestic issues we never really had to deal with before, when a king kind of just told you this is how it was going to be. And so a list of those domestic issues we were having at the time started with, all the way at Washington, the Whiskey Rebellion, right? People were uprising inside our own home, inside our own country, against their own president and legislative powers. We are creating the national banking system. That was an issue that Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton had continuously fought about, thus creating political parties. We have Adams' presidency with the Alien and Sedition Acts going on inside our own country, taking away our own rights. And we ultimately end with Marbury versus Madison as our last domestic issue, because we kind of are realizing, hey, we can have presidents, but they can also sometimes not be the best fit. And sometimes they can do things they shouldn't do. For example, Adams in this case shouldn't have tried to go around the system and appoint these judges when it was not really in his right to do that. He was instead trying to trick or trying to sway public opinion with having these Federalist judges to create laws that would benefit Federalists rather than Democratic Republicans. Now we are going to take a look at John Marshall himself. We have John Marshall. He is the first Supreme Court Chief Justice, which means he's basically the head of all the judges. And when he created judicial review out of Marbury versus Madison, he actually strengthened the power of the federal government and the judicial branch. So while it may not have benefited John Adams and the Federalists, it still did benefit the Federalists by strengthening the power of the federal government. Because now the judicial branch has the right to take a look at the executive and legislative branch, or your congressman and your president, to see, hey, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Or are they being a little power crazy, power hungry? And so he is going to write the Supreme Court decision that established judicial review. You are now going to see your exit ticket on the screen. Your exit ticket is going to be 3 questions. What court case established judicial review? Explain what judicial review is. And who was John Marshall? Now, that is where I am leaving you today. Please remember, this court case is very important. This is not going to be the last time you see this. You are going to see lots of warm-ups and lots of exit tickets about this because it is very important that you know this.